Has anyone else noticed that Marvel's current output is a lot darker and more mature than some of their Infinity Saga stuff? Like Deadpool and Wolverine was Marvel Studios' first R-rated movie. Stuff like Daredevil Born Again and Punisher One Last Kill, like bringing back those Defenders era characters who were known for their darker tones. Even Spider-Man Brand New Day, which is PG-13, is having like a darker vibe, a more serious vibe to the character, especially compared to the original home trilogy. And so we see that Marvel is clearly embracing a darker tone to a lot of their projects, but this actually is not the first time that Marvel has done that. And so
Now is the time for me to rise to my feet.
I think that Marvel Studios is actually in the same exact place that Marvel Comics was in the 90s. In the 90s, Marvel was part of what was called the Dark Age of comics, and it was a huge emphasis on darker characters with more mature tones and content like Ghost Rider, Wolverine, Punisher. And we're seeing that now with stuff like emphasis on Deadpool and Punisher and Daredevil in Marvel Studios projects. I think there's a lot of reasons that led to this in the comics, but I also think that they parallel perfectly to how we got here now with Marvel Studios. In this video, I want to break down how did Marvel Comics and Marvel Studios both arrive into these darker eras for the same exact reasons. One thing that really ushered in the dark age of comics was people were just kind of getting bored of Superman, Batman, Captain America, just doing the good old superhero thing. Like, they're just the good guys that did the hero thing, and that was it. They were kind of becoming bored of that and wanted something more, something different. And I think that's exactly what's happening with Marvel Studios, especially in that early 2020s time frame. Like, the biggest talking points were, oh, Marvel fell off after Endgame. Superhero fatigue was a huge buzzword. And there's good reason for that because a lot of the output, a lot of the projects weren't that good. Thor Love and Thunder, Multiverse of Madness, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, just to name a few. Like, people weren't liking these projects because they had no flavor. They were cookie cutter, they were cut and paste. It was just the same old, same old. And people just weren't really connecting with the status quo. They wanted something new. They wanted something fresh because Marvel had really defined the superhero genre with the Infinity Saga. And now they were continuing this kind of same vibe without offering anything new. And people began to grow tired of that, which has led to this success in darker projects and this appeal to it because people are wanting something diverse and new, and I do believe that darker projects in the MCU offer that fresh perspective. Not to say that there wasn't darker and more mature comic books prior to this, but The Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen really ushered in this new age of the dark age of comics. They were the most influential comics when it came to this new phase of embracing darker and violence and just all this kind of stuff. And because people saw the success of those projects, they saw Marvel, DC saw, oh my goodness, these are really popping off. Like, let's give the people what they want. Let's really embrace this. Let's lean into it. And we're seeing the same thing now with Marvel Studios. Projects like Deadpool and Wolverine, Deadpool being one of the most successful, highest grossing R-rated movies of all time. Or love it or hate it, a movie like Joker. Like, those movies were insanely successful financially because of their freshness to the comic book medium and their dark, mature content. And Marvel started to take note of that. And so they said, hey, let's lean into that. Like, obviously people are wanting that. And so that's another reason why we're getting these darker, more mature projects, because a few at the very beginning, Joker, Deadpool, projects like that, popped off at the box office, and these are businesses, these are studios, like, they're looking for their bottom line, and so they're gonna chase the trail of what led to money, and they see Deadpool, Joker, rated R, dark. Let's do that. Let's make our own version of that, and I think that's a huge reason why Marvel Studios is in this kind of dark age right now. Personally, I think this is the biggest reason behind the comics dark age as well as Marvel Studios' current dark age. Fans have grown up. I was 7 years old when the first Iron Man movie came out. I remember going to see it. This is a picture of me that day. We had a super fun day as a family going go karting and going to Chuck E. Cheese and then going to see Iron Man. Like, this was a super nostalgic memory for me. But now I'm grown. I'm a lot older. I'm married. I have a kid. The kind of media that I consume and enjoy is vastly different than when I was 7. I still love Marvel projects. Like, I still love a classic PG-13, silly, fun, just good adventure Marvel movie. But I also enjoy something else, a little bit more mature. That's what happened in the comics as well. The fans that grew up on these characters were growing older, and Marvel was growing old with them as well. They understood that their fan base wasn't just kids anymore, that they were older and that they were desiring more mature content to kind of match where they were at in life. And Marvel Studios is doing the same thing. That was one of my favorite things about Thunderbolts was it wasn't necessarily dark in terms of, oh, it's so violent and over the top and things like that, but its content in terms of its how it handled mental health and its theme was very mature. And I feel like that's something that they wouldn't have been able to do in early phase 1, phase 2 Marvel because their general core fan base just wasn't there yet. Now that a whole generation has grown up on these movies and they're in college, out of college, they're grown adults now. Like, these are struggles that they can relate to, that we can relate to. And Marvel is leaning into that and making projects right where they are, not neglecting the future generation and like still making fun adventure films for them, but also diversifying their output with movies and content that are right there with where we are. Since we're so far removed from that age of comics, we're able to look back and see, and unfortunately, that age of comics is pretty heavily criticized and critiqued, and there's a lot of people that don't really like it. There's a plethora of reasons, but a lot of people, the main reason is it's kind of just all flash and no substance. Like, it's dark and senseless violence for the sake of it without actually having a reason behind it. Like, it's just like, oh, isn't this so dark and crazy? But it's just kind of over the top for the sake of it. And I understand that. I understand that being a complaint and being a reason why the dark age of comics probably was somewhat short lived. But I believe that Marvel Studios can embrace this dark age, and then we can look back and not necessarily look at it as a bad thing, but look at it as a huge turn in the right direction. The main way I think Marvel can avoid the same issue that the comics did in terms of the substancelessness is literally the opposite. Don't make dark for the sake of dark. Don't just have characters doing over the top violent things and so much blood and so much language and oh, we're so mature, we're so dark, and it just feels like corny. Like, still tell amazing stories. Still tell mature stories. Let the violence match the story. Like, if you're going to have mature content, have a mature story as well. Like, understand your audience can understand that. And I already think that we're seeing that because Punisher One Last Kill, I think, is a perfect example of that. Over the top, crazy violent. Absolutely loved it. The action in that special, phenomenal. It is so good. But also, we get to see a really, like, gut punch story from Frank Castle struggling with, like, now that I've avenged my family, like, what is the point of my life? Like, what is the point of going on? I don't want to just sit here and live with this grief as well as not have a purpose or a mission. And seeing him wrestle with that, like, that's heavy, and that's great writing and great storytelling. Like, make sure you don't lose that. It is totally okay to go full tilt into darkness and having a dark and more mature story and movie and things like that, but don't neglect the story and don't neglect the characters. That's what makes them great. Stay true to the characters. Another thing I think they need to do to make sure that they don't fall into the same pitfalls as the comics did in the 90's, Don't go Zack Snyder on them, okay? Don't just make characters dark for the sake of being dark. Like, Superman should not have been Batman. Embrace the true core of the characters. Daredevil works as a dark character because at his core, he is a dark, mature character. Same thing with Punisher. Spider-Man, as he's growing and as he's developing and the things he's gone through that has led up to Brand New Day, is a darker, more serious story. Like, lean into and embrace what makes the characters the characters. Don't just make every character dark because we see dollar signs. I believe that is how Marvel Studios can avoid the same pitfalls and mistakes that Marvel Comics did when it came to the dark, more mature age. What do you think? Are you enjoying Marvel's kind of direction into darker projects? Do you wish that they would go back to their roots and kind of stick to tradition? Let me know in the comments, as well as if you have any prayer requests, please let me know in the comments as well. I would love to be praying for you. Dooskies, homies.